Almost. It's taking a long time. Oh, there it is. I think it's live. Let me turn the volume down. Okay, here we go. Let me come back here. All right, everyone can still hear me and see me okay? Um,
Yes.
okay, so the recording has started, so let's go ahead. So I want to welcome you guys to the first day of class for front-end UX design. So in today's class, we're going to go over a few things, kind of lay some of the groundwork. Some of it is, oh, it was Tanisha. Let me pause this again. Hmm, okay, hold on one second. Yeah, when you guys log in, a lot of it is for like security and sometimes you'll get people who are like trolls and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons when you first log into class, you have to have your camera on and you have to officially say hello so that I can verify each person who's in class. So if you're in a situation where you can't turn on your camera or you can't turn on your audio, I remove you from the class just to protect everyone in class and then to protect the class in and of itself. So that's the reason why that happens and why I try to verify, you know what I mean, that you are who you are. Because sometimes people can log in and I don't know who the people are and they're not supposed to be in the class. So having said that, moving back. So let me recap. So for today's class, for the first day of class, we will cover front end careers, what's going to be required of you to succeed in class, and just just kind of laying the groundwork. Now when we come, our classes are long, as you know, so they're Saturdays from 8 a.m. until 5, and the reason they're so long is because we have a lot to cover in 8 weeks to get you ready for certification, to get you ready to the point where you are ready to interview and you feel confident in interviewing, making sure your portfolios are solid and together. So that's why we're here for so long. There's a lot to cover over the 8 weeks, but it'll be well worth it once your portfolio is solid and you're ready to start interviewing for some of the positions that are out there. Some great opportunities at that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can officially get started. Let me take this back. And then Tori, you can turn off your camera for this part. I'm going to tell you guys when to turn your cameras back on. Because when I record and I pause and stop recording. Okay, let me see. What am I trying to do? Go here. Okay, let me share this screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay? You can verbally say yes. It's okay if I can hear because I can't keep,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I'm like, are they? Because I can't see the chat and the screen all at the same time. Okay, thank you. Let me say, do it this way. Okay, I don't, is that better? Or do you guys see like the whole entire screen that's the slide, or do you see the slide with a bunch of small slides at the bottom? Which one do you see?
Entire
Bunch of
screen.
slides at the bottom.
Oh, you see a bunch of slides at the bottom? You don't see the
Yes.
entire. Okay, I don't want you to see it
Oh
that way.
yeah, a bunch of slides.
Yeah, I don't want you to see it that way, so let me stop. Let me see, what's going to be a better way? I think maybe tell me about this one. What do you see now? The same thing? You still see a bunch of slides at the bottom?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's not it. I'm trying to make it so that you can, hmm, I don't know why you see it that way. What about, I really don't know which one to do because it says,
Play from current slide.
yeah, that's what, but then you still see
And
the
it
slides
still
at the
shows it.
bottom. Right,
Maybe.
you guys still see that?
Yeah,
Let me
that
do it
usually
this
works
way.
for me.
Yeah, let me try it this way. I think I have an idea.
Tanisha said she keep trying to log back in, but she got a error message saying you are unable to rejoin this meeting because you were previously removed by the host.
I kicked her out. She should have said something. I kept asking her who she was.
She said she was having bad reception.
Hmm. Okay, let me see if I can get her back in. I don't know how to let her back in. Can she try to log in from like a different device or something? I'm gonna pause recording while we figure out this technical stuff. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what happened. She can't, yeah, I'll send you a message. Well, so you guys don't get removed. Because if you get removed, I can't bring you back. I don't have time to figure it out. All right. While she figures that out, let me try to share this part of the screen. I think this is what I want you to see. Can you guys see
Yes.
like the whole thing now? That's better?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let me start the recording back.
Is Tanisha able to join from the live stream?
That's a good question. Let me send her that link. That's good thinking. Let's see. Okay, I gotta stop this again so I can get her the link. Okay, yeah, she can do it from there. That'll work. Let me go back to here. All right, now we're good. So you guys can see the big screen now, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So listen guys, like we'll go over it. But okay, so the front end UX UI development, and I should say 8 week, but it's 8 weeks. Before we had a 4 week one. So here's day one. So front end careers defined. This is kind of what we talked about already, but just to kind of go over it, I think it's important that you understand the space you are entering into, because as you guys enter into this space as UX designers, which is what this class is for, By the time this is over, you'll also have a skill set if you want to apply for positions as a content manager as well. And whether or not you have a skill set to apply for a front end developer depends on how aggressive you are. But definitely content management and UX design. So it's important that you understand what these careers are, what they entail, and what your day-to-day life is going to look like. We talked about this a little bit before when we did our day one, just introduction to the course and what was offered. But in class, we dig a lot deeper into it. So in the front end career space, you have the front end career space, you have the back end career space, you have the security career space, the artificial intelligence career space, and then you have the business side within the information technology, just career spectrum as a whole. I think it's very important that you understand the bigger picture. One thing that's not going to benefit you is for you to exist in a silo and only know about your profession, because you have to understand the bigger picture you are a part of in order for you to be successful, in order for you to have the skill set that's necessary for you to grow and to advance as well. So that's why it's important that you understand the entire landscape. And that's why, in the beginning, even though you may feel as if, well, that's not what I'm signing up for, or that's not the career path that I want to go in, you're still working arm in arm with these other careers. So you need to understand what's happening. IT is not how should I put it? Like it's not a like a assembly line type of career. So you can have an assembly line mentality. And what I mean by that is it's not, say for example, if you're working at like a motor car factory or something like that. And let's just say you work on an assembly line and your job may be to screw on the bolts for the door, and then, the parts move down the assembly line, and the next person, their job may be to attach the handle. You move down the assembly line, the next person may be to spray paint the handle, and people kind of silo and they only focus on what they are supposed to do. That does not work in the IT career space. And I will actually um end your career if you go into it thinking that way. So that's why, even though, the other things that we talk about today may not directly apply to you, they apply to you. You want to make sure you show up in the career space, just understanding the ecosystem that you're a part of. So having said all of that, in the front end career space, there's a career opportunity for front end development. Front end development is the act of writing the code that the user interacts with. So that's the act of writing the code to create the buttons, the forms, the calendars, just other application elements that the end user is interacting with on their phone, their iPad, their laptop. Content management is, if you're a content manager, that career space is the creation, the update, and the maintenance of the content that makes up the website or the application. So like when you visit a site like Apple and you see the latest iPad that came out, you see the latest phone that came out, you see updated images of what that new phone looks like. You see updated product descriptions in terms of how much memory you have. Everything that you're reading on the site, the content manager is the person who is actually typing in the text that you're reading. They're the people who are making sure that the images are up to date on the site. UX design, which is what you guys are here for, it is the process of actively designing the layout, the aesthetics, how the application is going to look. Where are the buttons placed? What colors are the buttons? Where is the text placed? What color is the text? What color is the website? What images are there? Where are the images placed? What type of infographics should be used to make it a clear path for the end user? What should we do to make sure that the application is accessible to the visually impaired, to those who are colorblind? When we're picking colors, what colors are we choosing? If someone who is colorblind and they're using our site, can they tell the difference between a button that's going to close a window and a button that's going to open a window if they can't see the color red? So those are all of the considerations that you take into consideration as a UX designer. So it's not just about the aesthetics, it's also about accessibility, is also about making sure the end user can achieve whatever it is they came to the application to achieve. Does that make sense? I need to hear like a yes, a no. I don't want to just keep talking to myself. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any
Yes.
questions? Does anyone have any questions about that so far? No? Okay. So another thing about the way I teach class is that I'm super interactive because otherwise we'll all fall asleep, especially considering that we have to, it's a long class. So, in saying that, this is part of where we get interactive. So, what I want you to do is please define the following three career occupations in your own words. Include the following in your answer for each career. So, just a 25-word or less description of the occupation, the top three technical skills you think are required, and the top three application skills. So, here's the thing, I don't expect you to know the answer. I just want you to guess, and I just want to see what you will guess. So, take a few minutes and answer, what is a UI UX developer? What is a UI UX front end designer? What's an app developer? What's a mobile app developer? What's a back end developer? What's a content manager? I just told you guys, we'll see how much you were listening to me. But so take a few minutes. I'm going to pause the recording. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Well, I'll give you 6 minutes. Let me see. How many? Six. I'll give you I'll give you 8 minutes. I'll give you 8 minutes to answer all of the questions. And then I'm going to go through and we're going to talk through each one of them individually and have a conversation. So go ahead, take a pause and answer those questions. And I'm going to come to you individually. We're going to turn on your camera and we're going to all talk to each other. The timer is starting now. So let me see, what time is it? It is 8:34. So at 8, what is that, 42? At 8:42, I'm going to come back. Okay, I am back. All right, so let me stop sharing for a little bit and let's have a conversation about it. Um, okay, who am I going to call on first? I will call on you in the order that I see you. So let me see. Let me see. I see Wait. It's the live is doubling up. Hold on, you guys. The audio. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So let me see. Stop sharing for a second. Okay, who do I see? I see Angela. All right, Angela, you can turn on your camera. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about um UX UI developer. Angela?
Okay, so I don't really know, like you said, I don't know if I know the answer,
Mm-hmm.
but
Wait, I can't see you.
you have to see my face.
Mm,
Okay, hold on.
okay.
No.
Okay, now what were you saying?
Um, so I was saying that for the app development, I mean for UX UI designer, I put in for my answer, I put down UX designer is like more of a creative aspect that doesn't require much coding, if any coding is needed at all. And to me, it's like aesthetically pleasing and improves the functionality or whatever for the user experience for that.
Okay. Okay, I like that answer. And Janella, what did you say about the front end? What did you say about app developer, Janella? Where's Janella?
I'm here. It just takes me
Oh,
a
okay.
second to.
I guess I'm impatient. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Hold on. Let me put my computer somewhere since you got to see me now. Um, yeah. Now to put it on my bed.
Mhm.
Struggle is real. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
If you had to guess, what's the app developer?
an app developer, someone who creates like programs and things like that for websites and mobile devices, like cell phones and things like that. Just the apps that we have on our phones.
Like, what's some examples?
Facebook, that's a social media app. Um, Banking apps, video game apps, maybe, just different apps.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tori, for a back-end developer, how would you describe a back-end developer, Tori?
I didn't even get that far.
That's okay.
Um,
You can tell me what you guess.
um, Back end developer would that be more like the end? No, that I don't know.
Just
Um,
take a while. So we got the front end. So tell me, so the front end is everything that the user sees. So when you go to an app, you're clicking on the buttons, you're entering your name, you're filling out a form. So if you just had to guess, what would be the back end of the application?
would it be, I guess, the developer that takes all of that information and
Absolutely.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
puts all that information together and I guess continues to push that up to the front end to keep the process
Hmm.
um okay functioning.
Yeah, they do. So, yeah, the backend developer is the person who puts the code in place to retrieve the information that's coming in from the front end and save it in a database somewhere. to store it so that it can be used later, like you said. So sometimes when you log in, you ever notice that Instagram always remembers who you are. So they're kicking back your name and your login information back to the front end, but that stuff is stored in their database in the back end. So your name, who liked your post, whose post you liked, all of that stuff is saved on the back end. And then that's why when you log in, it's like if you log out and you log back in, it's not lost. If you had 100 likes on the image, right? If you had 100 likes on the post, when you log out and log back in, it remembers you had 100 likes on that post. And that's because the back end is making sure to save and retrieve all that information so that it's readily available to ping pong back and forth between the back and front. See, good guess. You gotta trust yourself. You gotta trust yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, y'all. So we're gonna keep moving. Oh, the content manager, Angela. What's the content manager?
So for me,
The content manager is
I want to say, so what I put down is I don't know, I don't think my answer is right, but the content manager is they are in control of what content actually go. Sorry, they are in control of what content actually goes into the app or the website.
yeah, why wouldn't that be right? That's exactly
Oh,
what it is. Yeah. So the console when you I think I gave this example before when I was talking, like I was saying, when you go to Apple and they have a new phone, you see a new picture,
mhm.
right? You see a new product description, you see a new write-up. The content manager is the person who makes sure that the content is up to date. So yes, that is accurate. All right, y'all. So you can hide your camera. I'm gonna go back and share my screen again. We're gonna move forward. And just so you guys know, like this is how the flow of class is, because I know this is the first day of class. You don't necessarily know what to expect, but this is my teaching style. So it's me and you. It's not just me. All right, so you can go ahead and hide your camera. I'm about to start recording again, Angie. All right. Okay, I'm sharing my screen again. Okay, so that was awesome. So you guys did a really good job on the definitions. You guys trust yourself. So moving on to the next one. If it'll let me, I feel like I'm stuck. Hold on. Okay, there it is. Wait, did I go forward or backwards? Oh, these were the answers. So you were supposed to compare. So the UI UX front-end developer, as you guys said, is a person who uses front-end development languages to create websites, pages, and applications. Oh, you know what? I forgot to specify the difference between the developer and the designer. You have a UI UX developer and you have a UI UX designer. Now, one thing to understand the difference between is that a lot of times, depending on what company you work for, sometimes you will be the UX UI designer and developer, and sometimes you will just be the designer. The designer, a lot of times you don't have to know how to code. You just need to know how to create and design user interfaces that are aesthetically appealing. And right now, today's industry standard is Figma. And we'll talk about that later, but you'll probably be using a software called Figma to create your designs, but you won't necessarily develop anything. The UI UX front end developer is the person who actually codes and develops the front end. So there is a difference between the UX developer and the UX designer. And an app developer is honestly, it doesn't have to be a mobile app to be an app. So any application or anything you're interacting with that is saving information, interacting with information, taking in data is technically an app. A website, the difference between a website and a web app, a website is just purely information. You don't interact with it. You're not entering any forms. You're not clicking on, you're just going there to read something. It turns into an application the moment that there's an exchange of data. So keep that in mind because it's going to come up, the difference between a website and a web application. Mobile app development, if you're a mobile app developer, that means that you are specifically dealing with mobile apps, apps that are used for mobile devices. So that's phones and tablets typically. And the languages are different. Now that's starting to change a lot. We're seeing now that a lot of languages, like with JavaScript and stuff like that, it can exist in both places. So it can exist on what we call the bigger screens, like your laptops and your computers, your desktops, and it also can exist in the mobile space, your phone, the language that you learn. But typically, a mobile app developer, you are focusing on languages that run on specific devices. So a few years ago, if you were an Apple mobile app developer, you learned Swift. And if you were and that's the name of the language, the name of the coding language is Swift. If you were a Android application developer, you focused on Java primarily. But now we're seeing where, we can write the applications in something like JavaScript, or we can use different frameworks, like React Native, and the applications will run React and React Native. You only have to learn one language, and that language applies to whether it's an Android device or Android device. Backend developers, like Tori explained, write code to manage, store, or organize the data received through the application and the data to be delivered through the application. Content managers, like we talked about before, you guys got that right. You guessed that correctly. The content manager manages and updates the front-facing content and the imagery of the site. And a lot of times, content management is handled through applications like WordPress. Wix is technically a content management platform. What's another one people use? WordPress, Wix. You guys have any in mind that you can think of? GoDaddy has a content management system. On the industry side, it's usually like what is it? Is it Sitecore? But yeah, those are content management systems.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said that I was trying to take the note, but I think you said, hold on, let me go back to my notes actually. So you said that, wait, 1 second. Oh, here it is. You said it changes it changes with the exchange of data, the difference between.
Oh, an app and a site.
Okay.
So a website, technically, because a lot of times I can just comment, we always say website, but if you want to be technical about it, most of the time when people say website, they're referring to a web application. Most websites are web applications because there's an exchange of data. You're filling out a form, you're voting on something, you know what I mean? Like you're doing something that's an exchange of data. Websites, the technical definition, a website is just what we used to call back in the day brochure sites. So you would kind of go to a website and it would just let you know the menu of a restaurant. You couldn't make a reservation. You couldn't click on a button to call. You would just go to the website. You would see pretty pictures. You would see the menu, but there was no interaction. That's technically a website. Now, the moment that they updated the restaurant's website, where you could fill out a form and book a reservation, or you could place your order online. You could fill out a contact form, or you could fill out a complaint or leave a review. The moment you can do that, it's an application, because now there's an exchange of data. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So depending on what career space you move in, there are certain things you're going to have in your tool belt. So meaning there are certain skills that you need depending on what space you navigate to and within the IT career spectrum. So front-end developers, at a minimum, you're going to have to know HTML, which is a language, CSS, which is a styling language, JavaScript, which is a functionality language. Text and editing software. Text editing software. So you're always gonna, you have to have an environment that you go to actually code, right? And usually it's something like Visual Studio Codes, Dreamweaver, Coda. We'll get into that part when we start to install the applications you need on your computers. But text editing software, so say for to make this make sense, let's just say like if you're in school and you're an English major, the skills, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that will be replaced with, you would have to understand the basics of how to structure a sentence. You would have to have a basic understanding of the rules of grammar, right? And then, of course, you would have to know how to spell. So those would be the skills. Now, like once you have those skills, where you would actually, the tools you would use to write your paper would be something like Microsoft Word, right? Does that make sense? So how that translates over, look at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as being the ability to, in our scenario, that would translate over to like, okay, I know how to structure synthesis. I know, what's grammatically correct, whatever. Those are the skills you need. But when it's actually time for you to build the front end, the same way an English major would use something like WordPress, you're going to use something like Visual Studio, Dreamweaver to actually code. FTP, file transfer protocol, that's really advanced. We really probably, you guys are not going to deal with that in the UX design course, but that's how you take whatever application you're building and you make it available to the rest of the world, so to speak. So you have to place it on a server, a computer that's outside of your environment so that everyone else can access it. And that's when we start to talk about the file transfer protocol. But those are the skills that a front-end developer needs. So a front-end developer is going to have the skill set of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. They're going to be fluent and working within some type of text editing software, and they're going to understand the basics of file transfer protocol. That's the foundational tool belt for a front-end developer. Now a UX does.
Can you go back? I just want to write that down, the highlighted ones. 2 minutes. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. The UX designer is actually needs to be updated. So the UX designer, the skill, you're gonna have experience in terms of software that you use. So back in the day, it was Azure. Now, I'm quite sure there are a lot of companies that still use Azure and Adobe XD, but today's standard as of this year is actually Figma, probably as of like as soon as last year. So this class is focusing on Figma because just to give you guys background, when you're designing like frameworks, sketches, when you're doing sketches, when you're doing, we call them mocks, which is like kind of, in your world, you can think of this as like a blueprint. So when you're developing blueprints and schematics, these are the tools that you use to develop the blueprints, to develop the sketches. And Azure, is what we call for wireframing. And you guys see a picture of a wireframe. Illustrator is another Adobe software that used to be used, and it can still be used for when you start moving into high fidelity mocks, and you'll see what a high fidelity mock is. But basically a high fidelity mock is if you were to take a sketch, think about a coloring book. In the world of a coloring book, when you first buy a coloring book, the only thing you see is the outline. Think of that as a wireframe. But once you start to color it in with all the different colors and the details, it just transitioned from a wireframe to a high fidelity mock. So in your mind, a wireframe is more conducive to like a coloring book with just the outline, and then a high fidelity mock is with all the colors and everything filled in, right? So Azure was used for wireframing. HTML as a UX designer is seen as a plus, but it's oftentimes not required. Illustrator is as another Adobe software that can be used to move towards high fidelity mocks. Photoshop, it's a good idea to have a good handle on Adobe Photoshop because to be able to do image touch up, image retouching. So some companies, they have an art department, and the art department, the only thing they do is they take photos, they clean up the photos, they knock the background out, they do color correction, and then they'll hand them off to the UX designer. But sometimes if it's a smaller company or if the divisions are not that divided, you'll see that in a job description, they may ask if you at least have basic understanding of Adobe Photoshop, which is important because sometimes you need to get in there to resize the images to fit within your mock, to fit within your blueprint, so to speak. Adobe XD was another tool that was used for high fidelity mocks, and it would allow you to simulate interactions. Like, so you could simulate clicking on a button and going to a next page, even though it wasn't a website. And that's important for front-end designers because when you're doing presentations, you're kind of mimicking how the application is going to work. So you want to fake the click-through functionality. You know, like this is the home page, and when a person clicks on the About Us page, they would click on the About Us button and it'll go to the About Us page. Because you're not actually developing it, you just want to be able to simulate it. And Adobe XD was the tool, or for a lot of companies, it's still the tool that UX designers use to simulate workflow. And then Adobe Acrobat is kind of how sometimes when you design, well, not even sometimes, oftentimes once you design, you know, the workflow, the design for an application or a website, you want to be able to email it to someone or send it to someone. And Adobe Acrobat allows you to convert your Adobe XD or either your Azure files into PDFs so that you can send the PDFs to someone else. So in terms of software, UX designers, you know, you're going to be using, when you start looking at job descriptions, you're going to see these terms. You're going to see these softwares listed. You're going to see this list of software: Azure, Illustrator, Photoshop, Adobe XD, Adobe Acrobat. But like I said, the new standard is Figma, which is what we're going over. So I would say for you guys, you really should focus on Figma and Adobe Photoshop would be the two. Figma, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Acrobat. Those are going to be the three in terms of what's current. Now, in terms of skills, you guys you have to understand user behavior. That's something we're going over. You have to understand how to create personas. That's something that we'll be going over. You have to understand how to create use cases, how to conduct case studies, how to conduct user studies. Those are all things that UX designers, in terms of their skill set. Color, the psychology of color, spacing, just basic grid layout. All of those things are things that we'll be covering as we dive deep into UX design. Mobile app developers, this doesn't apply to you guys, but just so you know in general, mobile app developers, they know languages such as Java, C#, Swift, JavaScript, Node.js, Angular, React, Vue. They have a basic working knowledge of HTML. API development is a necessity for mobile app developers, and API development is how you communicate with the backend. JSON is another language. MySQL and things like Mongo, those are the database frameworks that, you know, mobile developers and backend developers work with. And everyone works with text editing software like Visual Studio, Dreamweaver. That's kind of across the board with developers. Of course, all developers need to have a strong understanding of file transfer protocol and Photoshop. This is the UX design course. So this is just so that you guys hear the terms and you see them, you kind of understand, but it kind of really doesn't apply to you within that UX design scope. But I just wanted you to understand, because like I said, you're going to exist within the space, and it's just good to know what's going on around you. Backend developers, again, there's a very tight correlation between backend developers and mobile developers. A lot of the same skill set is needed. So again, with a backend developer, you'll see languages like Python, PHP, Java again, C# again. I don't think Swift should necessarily be included. I think that should be taken off for backend development. But depending on the device and depending on how technical you get, I guess you can keep it there, but I would say no. Basic work out, and actually backend developers, they have a basic understanding of HTML to be able to build the framework. They don't necessarily know how to make it pretty, but they can at least develop the front end enough to test out the flow and the capture of data from the front end to the back end. API development is a necessity, which stands for application, what is it? Is application protocol interface. I can't remember what the P is. Application something interface, but the API is, let me look that up because it's slipping my mind and I don't want you guys to have the wrong term. Give me 1 second. I want to give you the correct term. I can't remember what the P stands for. It slipped my mind. Okay. Application programming interface. So API is the application programming interface. The API is usually the software that's put in place so that the front end can interface with the back end. JSON, MySQL again is a database thing, and Mongo should be added to that. Text editing software, everyone's using Visual Studio Code, Dreamweaver, Coda, or something of the sorts. Everyone in the development world needs to understand file transfer protocol. And Photoshop shouldn't be on there. Scratch that. Front end, back end developers don't need to know anything about Photoshop. Content management. Now, this applies to you guys. This applies to you, so pay attention. By the end of this course, you will have the skill set necessary to apply for a position as a content manager. Because a content manager really just needs to have a basic understanding of HTML and CSS. And I feel this is like, I think every UX designer, even if you are going to secure a position where you don't have to know how to develop at all, you should have a basic understanding of HTML and CSS. Because just a basic understanding of HTML and CSS also makes you more conscious of the designs that you propose. There's nothing worse than a UX designer who has no idea of what's needed for what they're asking for, and then they're asking for design and they're asking for implementation where the value add doesn't match what we call the technical debt. So technical debt is how many hours is it going to take the developer to develop this? That's what technical debt is. That's the term you pay attention to. Technical debt is, you're going to hear that term a lot once you're in the career space. How many hours is it going to take the team to develop this? Because this technical debt translates over to financial debt. Because if it takes the team, I don't know, 1,000 hours, that's 1,000 hours times however much everyone gets paid per hour, right? That's the technical debt. The value add is this component that we're adding to the design. How is it increasing the bottom line? Is it increasing sales? Is it increasing revenue? Because it's easier for the end user to check out. So say, for example, if you work for an e-com store and you want to, so let's just say the cart abandonment is high because every time someone gets ready to check out, they can't figure out where to enter their credit card information. So it's costing the company, let's say a company like Forever 21, you go to their website, you buy a shirt, you do checkout, and you can't figure out where to enter your credit card information. So you abandon and you just go over to Express instead of Forever 21. That's costing Forever 21 millions of dollars, right? So if as a UX designer, if you redesign the location of where you enter your credit card information, and now the abandonment, it goes from 90% of the people leave to only 10% of people leave, that's a big value add because you just save Forever 21 millions of dollars by repositioning where the form is to enter your credit card information, right? Now, the nightmare happens when you have a UX designer who says something like, well, I think that it'll be really cool if when you get ready to go to the checkout, the checkout form floats in like a butterfly, and it floats in from the left of the screen, and it comes in and you think it's a butterfly, but it's really not a butterfly, and then it morphs into a form. And then once it morphs into this form, then you enter, your credit card information. And it's like, because you have no concept of how many hours it's going to take to create this butterfly effect that has really small value add, it costs the company a lot. So how's it going? It costs the company a lot of money. So that's why I feel like it's important for UX designers to at least have a basic understanding of what it takes to create what they're asking for. Um, Basic working knowledge of JavaScript, that's really pushing it, but it's not required, but it's a plus. Photoshop, again, is a necessity for content managers because you guys are you're responsible for the images that are on the application and within the web application. FTP, a basic understanding of file transfer protocol but it depends. Like if they're on a software like what am I trying to say? WordPress. If they're using something like WordPress or Wix, you kind of just log in. You're not really working locally and then uploading your work to a shared server. Most of the time, content managers are not doing that. But sometimes, depending on the company you work for, they may have a file system where you do kind of do the work locally, and then you go through what we call a different series of being able to push your work. But we'll go over that. Don't feel overwhelmed by it. I just kind of wanted to put that in your ear so you have some awareness of it. So here's the part where we talk to each other again. In the front end career space, which career path interests you the most? And I just want to have a conversation with you guys about front end development, front end design, and content management. So I'm going to pause recording again, and we're about to talk to each other. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the bottom. I see Latoriana first. I see Tori first. Okay, so let's have a conversation about this. What are you thinking?
Um, I like the UX design.
Uh-huh.
I ever since even the orientation, like I've always kind of felt like that's more where my interests would veer towards. Just
Mhm.
just being able to create that layout, you know. I
Mhm.
just kind of want to see how I would do in
Mhm.
that type of position.
And that's cool. I think UX design is fun too. Because like the way in my position, I started off as UX front end development, right? But when I started, there was no separation between UX development and UX design. So I was both. So I just kind of was, as they call, grandfathered into it. It's only recent that they really started really, like separating the two. And I would say the design part is kind of the most rewarding part because it's just, it had to me, all parts are equally important, but just depending on your personality type, it depends on which one is going to be more rewarding for you.
Yeah.
Yep. What about
Mhm.
you, Janella?
So,
Janella, I think you're muted or turn up your volume. I got a message from you sent. Or is it me? It's me. Say something again.
hello.
That was me. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, what are you thinking?
Um, I was just cracking up at that client from AGW Hockey Stick that you clearly done had before.
Oh.
But but yeah, I'm interested in the front end. I mean, not the front end, the UX design, of course.
That's still within the front end career space.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, but yeah, it sounds pretty simple. I mean, not simple, but like something I could tackle and
Hmm.
take on. So I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just tired. I'm strapped in. I'm ready.
Okay, what about you, Angela?
So I like the UX design. I do, but I want to do I would like to start there, but I want to finish with the full stack. Um, because for me personally, I feel like the way the future is going, like technology and everything, I feel like a
Hmm.
lot of things with AI is gonna become automatic. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and I feel like to start off UX design is great, but to be the person behind coding the AI, I think that might be better,
Hmm.
just as far as job security.
So outside of job security, if you were just only basing it on what you think would be enjoyable, if you had the power to say, I think I have the power to choose what I'm going to enjoy the most, and all of the jobs are equally as secure, which one would you choose?
It would be UX design.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yes. So to your point, think like forward thinking and thinking about um like the future and what's going to be the most secure, all of that stuff. This is just my personal opinion, like in working in the career space, and just to give you guys like some insight. So at my current position, we have some reps come in who were selling AI to us. So they're selling AI to our company so that our development team can start implementing AI. And right now, Microsoft has a new AI tool that's called Copilot. But interestingly enough, Copilot is affecting the back end more than it's affecting the front end. So more of the full stack positions are being affected than the front end positions when it comes to AI and the impact AI is having. So it's looking like UX is actually more secure in terms of where we're moving with UI than the back end is, because the AI is coming in and doing the development 10 times faster than us. So when you talk about like full stack development and you talk about the back end, the AI is coming in, and what would take normally a team of 10 and it would take us say like 3 months, with the AI is coming in and is doing that full stack, that back end development for us, is doing it like with one person in about 2 days. So the UX design is more of the human touch that can't be replicated. That's harder to be replicated because when you get to the human interaction of what's the emotion of the person, how does this app make the person feel? Um, what colors are resonated with the person. Of course, AI is involved in that, but when you get into the art side of it, the art side of it is where just as a society um we kind of lean more towards just like the human touch when you get into design. But AI is affecting everything. AI is affecting the front end and the back end. It's affecting all of us. But one thing that's important is when you understand the the foundation and the basics, which is why I'm really big on making sure you guys are not assembly line workers. When you understand the basics, you can be the driver behind the AI, whether it's front end or back end. But when you come into it with the mindset of I'm the person who, screws the bolt, I'm the person who puts on the handle. When you come into it with that mentality, you're easily replaceable. So
Mm.
that's why like the curriculum is really based on making sure you understand the big picture. You're not just in one silo. You understand the whole scope of what you're doing and you can play in the whole scope. That's going to give you a little bit more job security and give you a place to work with AI opposed to being replaced by AI. And that's why it's structured the way it is. Um,
Question.
mhm.
So as far as the like Adobe Photoshop and everything, Acrobat, should we be investing in those programs now? Mm.
Yeah. So when we get to, I think it's next week, we start installing software. The software that we install for class, most of it has a free trial. right? And it's going to be the free trial is usually long enough to take you all the way through the class, but I would highly recommend if this is what you're going to be doing, and yeah, you need to have because you need to constantly have access to it. You need to be able to study beyond the class. You
Mhm.
need to be able to constantly update your portfolio. So yeah, it's something you should invest in. Mhm. Any other questions? Okay. It's almost time for a break. Another thing, as you guys are learning about class, we take a break every hour. The reason we take a break every hour is because if I talk to you for 4 hours, for 8 hours without a break, after the first hour, it's going to start like you ever see somebody put water into a cup and then there's no more space and it just starts spilling out? That's what happens. So psychologically, you have to, and when we take a break, it's very important you actually get up and move around and walk through the house or walk outside. You have to literally get up because that's going to increase your retention of all of this information. All right, so before we take a break, let me come back and then we're going to end screen share because I'm going to, so you guys can hide your cameras. I'm about to start recording again. And I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so we talked about that. A common thread of skills needed for all IT professions, leadership, management skills. Leadership and management is important. Leadership of yourself. Even if you're not over a team, you still need to know how to manage yourself, manage your time, take leadership action. Because sometimes when you're in a new environment, you may not necessarily get what you need. Someone may not necessarily be as helpful as they need to be, and you need to have a leadership gene in you to be proactive for yourself and kind of say and ask questions and kind of be more bold and not have imposter syndrome and ask the questions if you don't understand something or you don't know how to access something or if you're not clear about something. Don't be afraid that, oh my God, they're going to think I'm not equipped for the job and I'm not going to ask the question. Ask the question. Because what'll end up happening is you trying to pretend like you know is going to come back and bite you. And when it comes back to bite you, that's when they start, you put yourself in a position of someone questioning your skill set. One thing that I've noticed in IT is that you're not questioned when you don't, you're not questioned when you ask questions. You're questioned when you don't ask questions. Does that make sense? So you don't become questionable by asking questions. Your skill set becomes questionable when you don't ask questions. So it's kind of like the reverse rule in this space. Creativity and communication is very important. Like allow yourself to create. Sometimes like we're recreating our design system at my job right now and we have we call them brain smash, but we have these brainstorming sessions once a week where we look at our entire design system and we just throw ideas on everything. How should the buttons look? How should our modals look? How should the forms look? What colors we should use? And we're in this space where we're just like spitballing and throwing out a lot of ideas. And sometimes, depending on the person, you'll get feedback like, no, I don't think we should do that. Yeah, I think we should do that. Oh, I think that's horrible. But you just kind of develop thick skin where you let your creativity flourish and you just put it out there. But it's being creative and it's the way you communicate within that creativity. So some people are better skilled at it than others, but being able to voice when you agree with a design, when you don't agree with a design in a way that's emotionally intelligent to other people is important. So say, for example, if we're redesigning a form and let's just say someone suggests, I don't know, let's say someone suggests that the continue button is red and typically red means stops and it causes anxiety in people. And when you hear the suggestion in your mind, you're thinking, why would you ever make a continue button red? That's what you're thinking. But if you say that in a meeting, like, if you guys are in a creative space and your communication style is like, what? Why would you? Who does that? That would be considered bad communication, right? But the way you could communicate your concern would in a creative space, if someone wants to make a button red to check out, you may say something like, huh, that's an interesting choice. What's your thought process? What makes you think it should be red? You know what I mean? Then you can have a conversation. And then you kind of bring up, well, typically red signals a person to stop and green signals a person to move forward. So how does the team feel about us exploring the green space, right? That's just a more tactful way of expressing your concern and just saying, what? Who does that? That doesn't make any sense, right? So creativity and communication is very important. And then analysis and research. We're going to dive into that. As UX designers, you are researchers before you even get to design. A big portion of your job is going to be research and analysis before you even touch Adobe Photoshop. Before you even get to Figma, you're researching who's using the application, you're researching the competition, you're researching what colors better speak, to that demographic. You're researching a lot. You just research a lot of the personas, the personal data of the person, and then once you get all of that information, then you start to sketch out what makes sense. So, what to expect over the next 4 weeks? I keep saying it's 8 weeks. I need to update it. But what to expect? So over the next 8 weeks, you will develop the skills necessary to apply for entry-level content management positions or UX designers. You're going to have the skill set to apply for both. We are going to focus on building the basic understanding of front-end development with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but just the basics. We're not deep diving. The front-end development class deep dives into that. And you're going to definitely gain a working knowledge of UX design and best UX practices. Let me see. Should we go to the next slide? Oh, yes, we can talk about this. What's required for success? You have to complete all of your lab work. In order for you to gain a certificate of completion from the school, you have to complete all of your lab work. It's going to be required that you invest the time to dig deeper, to study and practice above and beyond. You have assignments, but I'm telling you, you need to study and practice above and beyond your assignments in order to compete in the space. And you have to have a positive mindset and believe in yourself. That's really what's necessary to succeed in the course. Let me see if I want to talk about the next. Oh yeah, I can tell you this really fast. I'm trying to think what's a good stopping point, you guys. Okay, we got 2 more and then we're going to stop. A keystone. So you're going to build 4 projects over the next 8 weeks. You're going to build a landing page. So you guys are going to develop a basic landing page that involves CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. Like I said, it's just going to make you a better designer if you understand and respect what it takes, at least a little bit what it takes to implement what you're asking for. Your landing page is going to introduce a product, service, or organization. Your landing page is going to provide a 1 to 3 paragraph write-up about the product, service, or organization, which is the content management piece. Your landing page is going to have an image to represent the subject. You're also going to you're going to build a form. So that's one of your projects. The other 3 of your projects, you are going to complete wireframes and high fidelity mocks and a user experience report. So that's where the UX design part comes in. So when you're interviewing, you will have a portfolio of wireframes that you have created, and you will have a portfolio of high fidelity mocks that you have created. And this is what you're going to take with you when you interview, or this is going to be the link that you point to when you apply for a position. Because when you apply for a job, they're going to ask you, do you have a portfolio? And when you apply for the job, they're going to ask you to provide a link to your portfolio. These projects are going to be what you link to when you start applying for jobs or careers. Just to recap, front-end development, career, and then just front-end careers, period, because UX design falls in the front-end career space. Just to recap this, you are usually an extension of the marketing department. So you're going to work very close with the marketing department, the print team, the digital team, You're gonna work very closely with them. Like you're always going to be at meetings with the marketing department. With the exception of a purely information site, like we talked about, the primary goal of almost all websites and apps is to get the visitor to buy something or to sign up for something. So everything that you design is going to be focused on that, achieving that goal. In the digital age, the UX experience can make or break a company. Like you are really, you know how they say first impressions are everything? First impressions can make or break you. That is very true with companies, and you are responsible for the first impression. The UX designer is the first impression person, like team. You guys are the team that creates, or you're designing whatever company you work for, their first impression comes from the UX team. As a front-end developer and a UX designer, you are responsible for the first and many times the only impression a company will get to make on potential new customers. Sometimes if I go to a site and I'm not coming back, how many of you guys have been to a website and you just instantly thought, I'm gonna make this a discussion piece before we go. I'm gonna come back to it, but I want to have a discussion about sites you went to and you instantly thought they were scam and you left, because that's a UX problem. In the age when the internet is the primary place of business engagement, the success and failure of product sales, marketing campaigns, etc., may more heavily weigh on the online experience than any other part of the business success. So the front end a lot of times weighs in, it impacts the success a lot of times heavier than any other aspect of the business. They can have the best product, they can have the best customer service, they can have the best sales, they can have the best deals. But in this digital space, if your site doesn't feel trustworthy, if your application is frustrating, it doesn't matter how good your product is. A lot of people are not going to trust. Doesn't matter how awesome of a deal you are offering if people are frustrated and can't check out. So the UX design is very, very important. Having said that, though, before we go on break, I'm going to stop recording again, and I just want to have a quick conversation about an experience you had that made you feel uncomfortable, and then we're going to take a break. Let me stop sharing. Okay, let's just talk about this really fast. An experience you had that made you feel uncomfortable. And with all of the scams going on right now, I know everyone should have a story. So
I can go first.
okay.
A lot of those Instagram boutiques, you'll see something and you're like, oh my God, I love those boots. And you go on there and it's like grayed out at the bottom where the credit card, and you like, you know, yeah.
And it made you feel like it was a scam
all the time.
Because that's
where you go. Yes, but I've also had friends that have recommended, me go on a website and they've ordered things and it came. So it's kind of like you can at your own risk, like basically. And I just try to go look at the reviews to see what other people say. Like you're deep diving into this whole thing. By then I don't even want it no more.
That's the point. That's the power of UX. That's the power of UX design, because UX design, that's that experience. That experience made you feel like, ooh, and it was all, and this is the crazy part. It was design. It was design. You said the bottom was gray. That's a design choice. The credit card stuff looked off. That's a UX design thing. What about you? You got a horror story or a scary story?
I can't think of anything. I mean, there's just been sites that I didn't find aesthetically pleasing, and I just didn't want to be on it, or didn't go back to it because it looked outdated, or it looked like a 12-year-old put it together, and I didn't trust it.
Yeah. Have you ever had like an experience that was frustrating, like you were trying to move through an app or move through and you can't find what she's like,
when you said that earlier, like why would they put the continue button as a red button? I've done that before where maybe it wasn't the continue button red, but I was like, why would they do that like that? Like that's backwards. And like, don't you know, like when you're moving fast and you automatically think, oh, this means go, or okay, go, click that, and then you click it, and then it takes you somewhere else. Like, wait, no, that's not what I meant to do. Let me go back, and then you click it again. Like, I did the same thing, because in your mind, you're programmed to think, okay, this means continue, but it wasn't continue. Like,
That's
so
a
yeah.
that's a poor UX design choice. What were you about to say again?
Me?
Hmm.
Oh, I just was on Hobby Lobby. I don't know if y'all ever went on their website, and it's like I could not find where to put the promo code at.
See?
Like, it was so frustrating, and it was only one little picture I wanted to buy, and it was like I got all the way to the checkout. I had to Google where is the promo code. I didn't even buy it. Like, it was so I was mad.
See?
Mad.
That's happened to me before, where I only went because of the promo. Okay. Like,
Yep.
you got me. I got the promo code. Did I get all the way through the cart? And then I done checked out, and I'm like, wait, it never asked me for the promo code. Where's the promo code? Like, then I have to call customer service. Like, okay, now I was supposed to put in this
Yeah.
promo code, but there was no place to put it. And now I done clicked all the screens to the point where you guys done charged me, and I never put in the
Yeah.
promo code.
I
Mhm.
love these examples because this is the power of UX design. This is why the UX design team makes or breaks the company. This is why the UX design team can, like you said, so in your example with Hobby Lobby, you left. And that's like one of the examples that I gave when I was going through. That's costing them million. You're not the only person who left.
Yeah.
That's costing them millions of dollars, literally. That's not hypothetical. That's literal. Like anything that one person does, case studies show that however big your company is, that's on scale. So you can automatically assume thousands of other people did that. They left. UX design is very important. Yeah. Do you have an example? A UX experience?
I Yeah, I have so many examples I can't keep up.
Hmm.
A lot of things, like sometimes the the phone app is distorted, you know what I mean, compared to the web page app.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, and it's just like all off balance. Like you can't even see the whole screen, you can't see
Hmm.
all the letters. And then sometimes
That's a development thing and that's a development and a design issue. But go ahead.
mm, and then sometimes things would just be off. Like it's just so many times.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm glad. So you guys understand the importance and the weight of the careers you are moving into. And you also understand why they pay UX designers so much because companies are realizing that. So that's why when you look at the jobs and you see like 90,000 a year, and then you'll see like 120,000 a year, because they understand that if we don't have the right UX designer, that's going to cost us $1 million a day. So that's why you get paid so much for it, even though you're not developing because of everything that you guys just said, companies realize that's very important. So on that note, it is time for our 20-minute break. We take 15 to 20 minutes every hour, but we went over. So that's why I'm giving you 20 minutes. So we will be back at 10. So get up, move around, shake it off, eat, do some stuff, and then we'll come back. Okay. All right.